The champagne toast had just finished when Rebecca saw him. Standing in the doorway of the country club ballroom, scanning the wedding reception crowd with that familiar look of barely controlled rage, was Marcus, her ex-boyfriend, the man she'd left 8 months ago after 2 years of escalating jealousy, control, and emotional abuse that had nearly destroyed her. The man she'd specifically told her sister Emma not to invite. The man who had a restraining order that said he wasn't supposed to be within 500 feet of her. But there he was, in a wrinkled suit, clearly drunk, with that smile that looked charming to strangers, but that Rebecca knew meant violence was coming. Rebecca stood frozen near the bride's table, champagne flute trembling in her hand. Around her, Emma's wedding reception continued. Music playing, guests dancing, laughter and celebration filling the elegant ballroom, decorated with white roses and twinkling lights. Nobody else had noticed Marcus yet. Nobody except Rebecca and one other person, the best man, Emma's new husband, Jake's childhood friend, stood near the bar talking with groomsmen. He was maybe 35, tall and solid, wearing a suit that looked slightly uncomfortable on someone who probably preferred leather and denim. His sandy hair was pulled back in a short ponytail, and even in wedding attire, he had the look of someone you didn't want to mess with. Rebecca had met him briefly during the rehearsal dinner. Connor Reaper McKenna, Jake had introduced him as. Vice president of the Iron Riders Motorcycle Club, Jake had mentioned with obvious pride in his friend's position. Now Connor's eyes had locked onto Marcus in the doorway. And something in Connor's posture changed. Relaxed conversation, shifting to alert readiness. Marcus started walking into the reception, not toward Rebecca specifically, but scanning the crowd, clearly looking for her. Rebecca's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "I see you, Becca. White dress. Looking beautiful. We need to talk." Her hand started shaking so badly she nearly dropped her phone. White dress. He was watching her right now, knew exactly where she was. Another text. "Don't ignore me. You know I hate being ignored." Rebecca looked up. Marcus was closer now, maybe 30 feet away, weaving slightly through the crowd. She should call security. Should tell someone. Should. Connor appeared beside her so quietly she jumped. "That him?" he asked, voice low and calm. "The ex with the restraining order?" Rebecca blinked. "How did you?" "Jake told me yesterday. Said his new sister-in-law had a problem ex who might cause trouble. Asked me to keep an eye out." Connor's voice stayed conversational, but his eyes were tracking Marcus through the crowd. "Restraining order says 500 feet, right?" "Yes, I don't know how he found out about the wedding." "Social media, probably. Emma posted photos." Connor set down his drink. "Stay here. I'm going to have a conversation with your ex." "Connor, he's drunk and angry. He might do a lot of things when he's facing a woman alone. When he's facing me, he's going to make different choices." Connor looked at her directly. "Trust me, I've handled situations like this before." He walked away before Rebecca could respond, moving through the wedding guests with purpose. Rebecca watched as Connor intercepted Marcus about 20 feet from where she stood. Couldn't hear what was being said over the music and conversation, but she could see body language. Connor spoke calmly. Marcus responded with his usual aggressive posture, chest out, finger pointing, the stance of someone who was used to intimidating people. Connor didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there with the kind of stillness that suggested he was completely unimpressed by Marcus's display. Marcus tried to step around Connor. Connor shifted position, blocking him without touching him. Words were exchanged. Marcus's face got red. He raised his voice. Rebecca could hear it now, cutting through the music. "Get out of my way. I need to talk to my girlfriend." "She's not your girlfriend," Connor said, voice still calm but carrying now, audible across the room. "And you're violating a restraining order. Leave. Now." "Who the fuck are you?" "Someone telling you to leave before this gets complicated for you." Marcus laughed. "You think you scare me? I'm not leaving until I talk to Rebecca. Move." Connor pulled out his phone, made a call without taking his eyes off Marcus. "Yeah, this is Reaper. We've got a situation at the Riverside Country Club. Guy violating a restraining order, intoxicated, making threats. Need some brothers here in case this escalates." Pause. 10 minutes? Good. Tell Jax to bring the camera. I want this documented." He hung up and looked at Marcus. "You've got two choices. Leave now under your own power, or stay and explain to a dozen very large, very motivated bikers why you thought crashing this wedding and violating a restraining order was a good idea. Choose fast." Marcus's bravado cracked slightly. "Bikers? What the fuck? Iron Riders MC. I'm the VP. This is my brother's wedding, and you just threatened his new sister-in-law. That makes it club business." "You can't. I have a right to be here." "No, you don't. This is a private event. You weren't invited. You have a restraining order. And you're drunk." Connor's voice stayed level, but something underneath it had gone very cold. "Security is already on their way over. You want to leave with some dignity? Or you want to get escorted out in front of all these people while my club brothers document you violating a court order?" Rebecca saw Marcus look around, saw him notice that other groomsmen had moved closer, forming a loose circle, saw him realize that Connor wasn't alone, saw him make the calculation that he was outmatched. "This isn't over," Marcus said to Connor, then louder, projecting toward where Rebecca stood. "This isn't over, Becca. You can't hide from me forever." "Actually, she can," Connor said quietly. "And she will, because you're done here. Security?" 2 security guards had appeared. Connor gestured to Marcus. "This man is violating a restraining order against one of the guests. He's intoxicated. He needs to leave the premises immediately. If he refuses, call the police." The security guards flanked Marcus. One of them said, "Sir, we need you to come with us." Marcus left. Not willingly, but he left. The security guards escorted him out of the ballroom while wedding guests stared and whispered. Connor returned to Rebecca. "He's gone. Security's making sure he leaves the property. And I've got brothers on their way. They'll stay outside for the rest of the reception, make sure he doesn't come back." Rebecca felt tears burning behind her eyes. "Thank you. I don't know how he found out about the wedding." "Doesn't matter how. What matters is he's gone and you're safe." Connor's expression softened slightly. "Jake told me you've been dealing with this guy for months. Said the restraining order hasn't stopped him from showing up places. It's just paper. He doesn't care about court orders." "I know the type. They push until someone pushes back harder." Connor pulled a business card from his suit jacket pocket and handed it to her. "This is my number. If Marcus shows up again, at your work, your home, anywhere, you call me, day or night. I'll handle it." Rebecca looked at the card. Simple design. Connor Reaper McKenna, Iron Riders, MC, a phone number. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Because you're Jake's family now, that makes you Iron Riders' family, and because I've seen what happens when guys like Marcus don't get stopped." His jaw tightened. "My sister had an ex like yours. Restraining order didn't help. Police couldn't do anything until he actually did something. By the time he actually did something, she was in the hospital for 3 weeks." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just call me if you need help. The club doesn't let people terrorize our families." Connor walked away to resume his best man duties, leaving Rebecca holding his card and trying to process what had just happened. A Hells Angels motorcycle club, well, Iron Riders, but same world, had just become her protection because she'd become family through her sister's marriage. Rebecca didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. She chose relieved. Terrified could come later, if needed. What would you have done? Would you have accepted help from a motorcycle club member, or would you have tried to handle your stalker ex alone? The wedding reception continued. Emma and Jake danced their first dance, cut the cake, threw the bouquet. On the surface, everything went perfectly. But Rebecca noticed changes. Connor had positioned himself near the entrance, casual but vigilant. Several large men in suits, men who hadn't been there earlier, men who moved with the particular confidence of people who'd been in fights and won them, now stood outside the ballroom entrance. The Iron Riders, Rebecca realized, Connor's club brothers, making sure Marcus didn't return. After the reception ended and guests began leaving, Connor approached Rebecca again. "My brothers are going to follow you home. Make sure you get there safely." "That's really not necessary." "It is. Marcus left angry and humiliated. Men like that do stupid things when they're angry and humiliated. You don't drive home alone tonight. 2 motorcycles followed Rebecca's car through Boston suburbs to her apartment in Cambridge. Large men on Harleys, wearing leather vests with the Iron Riders patches, a stylized motorcycle wheel with wings. They waited while she parked, walked her to her apartment door, checked her locks. "You're good," one of them said. Big guy, maybe 40, with a graying beard and a name patch that read Jax. "Connor said to make sure you got inside safe. You need anything, you got his number." After they left, Rebecca stood in her apartment trying to process the strangeness of her evening. Her ex had crashed her sister's wedding. A biker gang, motorcycle club, she corrected herself, had protected her. And she had a business card in her purse from a man called Reaper who'd promised to handle Marcus if he showed up again. Rebecca pulled out her phone and did what she probably should have done at the wedding. She Googled Iron Riders MC Boston. The results were complicated. The Iron Riders Motorcycle Club was described in articles as a one-percenter club, the term for outlaw motorcycle clubs that operated outside the rules of mainstream biker organizations. Articles mentioned alleged involvement in motorcycle theft rings, bar fights, and territorial disputes with other clubs. But there were also articles about the club's charity rides, for children's hospitals, about toy drives and fundraisers, about community members who praised the Iron Riders for keeping the neighborhood safe in ways police didn't. Connor Reaper McKenna was mentioned by name in several articles, vice president of the Boston Charter. No arrests, no convictions, but a reputation that suggested he was someone people respected and didn't cross. Rebecca closed her browser and looked at Connor's business card. She should probably stay away from motorcycle clubs, should handle Marcus through legal channels, should not get involved with people who operated in gray areas between legal and less legal. That's what she was telling herself when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You looked beautiful tonight, Becca. White dress, hair up, like old times. I miss you, Marcus." He'd gotten her new number somehow. She'd changed it 3 months ago, specifically to stop his constant calls and texts. "We need to talk. About us. About our future together." Rebecca's hand started shaking. She'd blocked his old number, changed hers, filed a restraining order. None of it had stopped him. Another text. "I know where you live now. Followed you home from the wedding. Nice apartment. Second floor, corner unit, blue curtains." Rebecca ran to her window, pulled back the blue curtains, looked down at the parking lot. Marcus's car was there, parked across the street. And Marcus was sitting in the driver's seat, looking up at her window, phone in his hand. He waved when he saw her. Rebecca backed away from the window, heart pounding. She should call the police, should report the restraining order violation. But she'd called the police 4 times in the past 8 months. Each time, they'd told her the same thing. Unless Marcus actually threatened her or hurt her, there was nothing they could do. Showing up near her apartment wasn't technically a violation if he stayed 500 feet away. Texting wasn't illegal harassment unless he explicitly threatened violence. The system kept telling her to wait until he actually hurt her, and Marcus was smart enough to stay just on the legal side of that line. Rebecca pulled out Connor's business card and called the number. He answered on the second ring. "Connor." "This is Rebecca, from the wedding. I'm sorry to call so late, but Marcus, he followed me home. He's sitting in his car outside my apartment right now. He's texting me. He knows which unit I live in, and I'm scared." "What's your address?" Rebecca gave it. "Lock your doors. Don't go outside. I'm 20 minutes away. I'll handle this." "Connor, he's not technically violating the restraining order. He's more than 500 feet from my building. The police won't do anything." "I'm not the police. Stay inside. I'll call when I'm outside." 15 minutes later, Rebecca's phone rang. "It's Connor. Look out your window." Rebecca looked. Connor's motorcycle was parked in her lot. Connor himself stood beside Marcus's car, having what appeared to be a very one-sided conversation with Marcus through the driver's window. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she could see Marcus's expression change from defensive anger to something like fear. The conversation lasted maybe 2 minutes. Then Marcus started his car and drove away. Connor stayed in the parking lot, watching until Marcus's car was completely out of sight. Then he called Rebecca again. "He's gone, but I'm staying out here for a while. Make sure he doesn't come back. Connor, you don't have to. Yeah, I do. Get some sleep. I'll be here. Rebecca looked out her window. Connor sat on his motorcycle, leather vest visible even in the streetlight, clearly settling in for a long night. She went to bed but didn't sleep, kept checking her window. Connor stayed there, sometimes on his bike, sometimes walking the perimeter of her building, always vigilant. At 3 a.m., another motorcycle pulled up. Jax, the biker who'd escorted her home earlier. He and Connor talked briefly, then Connor got on his bike and left. Jax stayed, guarding her building until dawn. When Rebecca left for work at 7 a.m., Jax was still there. He nodded to her as she walked to her car. Connor said to make sure you got to work safe. I'll follow you. This is too much. It's what brothers do. You're family now. A motorcycle followed Rebecca to the elementary school where she taught 3rd grade. Jax waited in the parking lot until she was safely inside the building, then left. Rebecca stood in her classroom, preparing lessons for 8-year-olds, trying to process that a motorcycle club was now providing her with security that the legal system wouldn't. Over the next 2 weeks, the Iron Riders became a constant presence in Rebecca's life. Not intrusive, not obvious. But there. Someone was always nearby when she left work. Not always the same person. Sometimes Jax, sometimes Connor, sometimes other club members, whose names she was learning. They'd nod to her, make sure she got to her car safely, follow her home at a distance. Marcus stayed away during those 2 weeks. No texts, no calls, no appearance outside her apartment. Rebecca started to hope maybe it was over. Maybe Connor's warning had actually worked. Then she received a letter at school, hand-delivered to the front office, addressed to Ms. Rebecca Walsh in handwriting she recognized. Inside, Marcus had written 3 pages about their relationship, about how she was making a mistake, about how they belonged together. The tone shifted from pleading to angry to threatening. The final paragraph made Rebecca's blood run cold. You think those bikers scare me? You think having criminals protect you is going to keep you safe? I'm smarter than they are, Becca. I've been watching, learning their patterns. They can't be everywhere. Eventually you'll be alone. And when you are, we're going to have our conversation, the one you've been avoiding. I love you too much to let you go. Rebecca called Connor immediately. He sent a letter to my school, threatening me, talking about watching the club's patterns, waiting until I'm alone. Send me a photo of the letter, all 3 pages. Rebecca did. I'm calling a church meeting, Connor said after reviewing the photos. Tonight, you should be there. A what? Church. That's what we call club meetings. The brothers need to hear this. Marcus is escalating. We need to handle it properly. Connor, I don't want to get your club in trouble. Too late for that. Marcus made it club business when he threatened someone under our protection and specifically mentioned the Iron Riders. Tonight, 8 p.m., I'll text you the address. The Iron Riders clubhouse was not what Rebecca expected. She'd imagined something dark and intimidating. Instead, it was a converted warehouse in an industrial part of Boston with motorcycles parked outside and a surprisingly well-maintained building that had Iron Riders MC Boston Charter painted on the side. Connor met her at the door. Thanks for coming. Most of the brothers are already here. He led her inside to a large room with a long table, motorcycle memorabilia on the walls, and about 20 men in leather vests, all wearing the Iron Riders patches, all looking at her with various degrees of curiosity and concern. At the head of the table sat a man in his 50s with a full beard going gray and a presence that suggested he was used to being in charge. His vest had a president patch. Rebecca, this is Blade. He's our chapter president, Connor said. Blade stood and extended his hand. Ms. Walsh, Connor's told us about your situation. We're sorry you're dealing with this. Thank you. I don't want to take up your time. You're not taking up our time. You're family. Jake's wife's sister. That makes you Iron Riders family. And we protect family. Blade gestured to a chair. Sit. Tell us everything about Marcus. Don't leave anything out. For the next 30 minutes, Rebecca told her story. The 2-year relationship that had started normal and turned controlling. The jealousy, the emotional abuse, the way Marcus monitored her phone, her schedule, her friendships, how he'd isolated her from family and friends. The 3 times he'd gotten physical, nothing that left permanent marks but enough to terrify her, leaving him 8 months ago. The immediate stalking that followed, the restraining order that didn't work, the police who kept saying they couldn't help until he actually did something, the wedding crash, the texts following her home, the letter threatening to wait until she was alone. The room was completely silent when she finished. Blade looked at his club members. Opinions? An older biker with road-worn features and a sergeant-at-arms patch spoke first. This ain't gonna stop with warnings. Guy's obsessed, he's escalating, and he's specifically said he's watching our patterns, waiting for an opening. Agreed, Connor said. Marcus isn't afraid of consequences because he hasn't faced real consequences. Restraining order is paper. Police can't act. He thinks he can outlast us. Then we educate him, Blade said. But we do it smart. Nothing that gets the club investigated. Nothing that puts brothers at risk. We make Marcus understand that Rebecca is permanently off limits. How? Rebecca asked quietly. Blade looked at her. We're going to have a very direct conversation with Marcus, all of us, in a way that makes it crystal clear that touching you, texting you, following you, or even thinking about you carries consequences he can't survive. What kind of consequences? The kind where he understands that the club has resources he doesn't, that we know where he lives, where he works, where he spends his time, that his safety depends entirely on leaving you alone. Blade's voice was calm but carried steel. Underneath, we're not going to hurt him, but he's going to understand very clearly what happens if he doesn't stop. Is that legal? Having a conversation, completely legal, whether he feels threatened by that conversation. Blade shrugged. That's on him. Connor leaned forward. Rebecca, you need to understand what we're offering. The club is going to make Marcus go away, permanently. But that means accepting protection from people who operate in gray areas, who handle problems in ways police can't or won't. Are you comfortable with that? Rebecca thought about Marcus's letter, about 8 months of fear, about the police who kept telling her to wait until she was actually hurt. Yes, she said, I'm comfortable with it. Rebecca never learned exactly what the Iron Riders said to Marcus. What she did learn was that 3 days after the church meeting, Marcus quit his job at the accounting firm where he'd worked for 6 years, sold his condo, and moved to Arizona to live with his parents. Connor called to tell her. He's gone. Drove out of Boston yesterday morning, called his landlord, called his employer, called everyone he needed to call. He's not coming back. What did you say to him? We had a conversation about 12 brothers and me at his condo. Very polite, very calm. We explained that you're under the club's permanent protection, that we have chapters in every major city, including Phoenix, where his parents live, that there's nowhere he can go where the Iron Riders don't have presence. You threatened him. We informed him of reality. We also showed him documentation of every time he'd contacted you in violation of the restraining order. Photos, texts, the letter to your school, evidence that would hold up in court if someone bothered to pursue charges. The police wouldn't pursue charges. No. But we explained to Marcus that we could make his life very uncomfortable in other ways, that his employer might be interested, to know he was stalking someone, that his new neighbors in Arizona might want to know a restraining order exists, that we have the resources and motivation to make sure he's never anonymous again. Rebecca absorbed this. So he left because you scared him. He left because he finally understood consequences. For 8 months, he terrorized you with no real pushback. Now he knows what real pushback looks like. Thank you, Rebecca said quietly, for making him leave, for protecting me when nobody else would. You're family. That's what we do. 3 months after Marcus left Boston, Rebecca sat in a coffee shop with Connor and her sister Emma. Emma had been cautiously grateful that the Iron Riders had helped, but clearly nervous about her sister's association with an outlaw motorcycle club. I appreciate what you did, Emma said to Connor. Getting Marcus to leave, making sure Rebecca was safe. But I worry about... I don't know how to say this without sounding ungrateful. You worry about your sister being connected to criminals, Connor said matter-of-factly. That's fair. Are you? Criminals? We're a one-percenter club. That means we don't follow the rules of mainstream motorcycle organizations. We operate independently. Some of what the club does exists in gray areas legally. Like what? Like having 12 bikers show up at someone's condo to have a conversation that makes them leave the state. Like following people to make sure they get home safe. Like providing protection that technically could be considered intimidation, depending on your perspective. Emma frowned. So you are criminals. We're people who handle problems the legal system can't or won't fix. Whether that makes us criminals depends on your definition of the term. That's not reassuring. Connor looked at Emma seriously. Your sister came to the police 4 times, filed reports, got a restraining order, did everything the system told her to do. None of it stopped Marcus. He kept stalking her, terrorizing her, violating court orders with 0 consequences. The system failed her completely. He paused. The Iron Riders didn't fail her. We made sure she was safe when nobody else would. We made Marcus leave when the legal system couldn't. We provided protection that actually worked. If that makes us criminals in your eyes, fine. But your sister can sleep at night now. She can go to work without being followed. She can live her life without fear. That's what matters. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took Connor's hand. Thank you for protecting my sister, even if I don't completely understand your methods. You don't have to understand them. You just have to trust that we mean what we say when we call someone family. After Emma left, Rebecca and Connor sat together finishing their coffee. Can I ask you something? Rebecca said. Sure. Your sister, the one whose ex put her in the hospital. What happened to him? Connor's expression darkened. He went to jail eventually, assault with a deadly weapon, but only after he'd hurt my sister badly enough that she needed reconstructive surgery. The restraining order didn't protect her. The police didn't protect her. By the time the system worked, it was too late. Is that why you help women like me? Partly. Also because the club's always had a code about protecting people who can't protect themselves. We might break some laws, might operate outside the system, but we don't tolerate bullies. And guys like Marcus are bullies who hide behind the system's failures. The club saved my life, Rebecca said quietly. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. Marcus wasn't going to stop. Eventually, he would have hurt me. Badly. The police wouldn't have helped until after that happened. They never do. That's the problem with the system. It's reactive instead of proactive. We're proactive. By scaring people. By making sure they understand consequences before violence happens. Yeah, we scare people. But women stay safe. I'll take that trade. Rebecca thought about this. About systems and protection and the difference between what should work and what actually did. Thank you, she said, for everything. For protecting me at the wedding. For watching my apartment. For making Marcus leave. For being there when nobody else was. You're family, Connor said simply. That's not something we take lightly. 6 months after Marcus left Boston, Rebecca got a call from an unknown number. Is this Rebecca Walsh? A woman's voice, nervous. Yes. My name is Sarah Lynn. I got your number from Connor McKenna at the Iron Riders. He said you might be able to help me. Rebecca's breath caught. Help you with what? I have an ex-boyfriend who won't leave me alone. I've filed police reports. I have a restraining order. None of it has stopped him. Connor said you were in a similar situation and the club helped you. I was wondering, is that true? Rebecca understood immediately what Sarah was really asking. Yes, she said. It's true. Tell me your story. Everything. Over the next year, Rebecca became an unofficial resource for women whose legal protection had failed. Connor would quietly refer cases to her, women being stalked, women whose restraining orders weren't being enforced, women who needed protection the system wouldn't provide. Rebecca would listen to their stories, document everything, and when it was clear the legal system had failed, she'd bring the case to Connor and the Iron Riders. The club would handle it. Sometimes with conversations like the one they'd had with Marcus, sometimes by providing security, sometimes by making stalkers understand that their targets had protection that didn't require court orders. It wasn't a perfect system, It wasn't legal justice, it was something else. Practical protection that existed because the legal system failed so consistently. Rebecca also started documenting patterns. How many women had restraining orders that weren't enforced? How many stalkers faced zero consequences until after they'd committed violence? How the system was designed to respond after harm rather than prevent it. She compiled data, started sharing it with advocacy organizations, began speaking at community events about the gaps in stalking prevention, and she always ended with the same message. The system should protect women, but until it does, women will find protection wherever they can get it. We shouldn't have to, but we do. She never mentioned the Iron Riders by name, never explained exactly how she'd survived her stalker, just planted the truth. Legal protection fails regularly, and women survive through means the system doesn't approve of. One evening, Rebecca met with Connor and several other club members at the clubhouse. They'd started holding regular meetings, Rebecca providing updates on women who needed help, the club coordinating protection. 15 women this year, Rebecca said, all with restraining orders that weren't working, all being stalked or threatened, all safe now because the club intervened. 16, Jax corrected. There was one Connor handled directly, woman whose ex was a cop, couldn't go through normal channels. Rebecca looked at Connor. A cop? Yeah, made it complicated. But we've got members who aren't afraid of badges. Handled it. Blade spoke up from the head of the table. We're getting a reputation. Women's shelters are starting to reach out. Domestic violence advocates who know the system fails. They're asking if the club can help in situations where legal protection isn't working. That's good, right? Rebecca asked. It's good and dangerous. The more visible we are, the more attention we draw. Cops who don't like us handling things they can't or won't handle. Lawyers who think we're vigilantes. Blade looked around the table. We need to be smart, document everything, make sure we're not crossing lines that get brothers arrested. Are we crossing lines? Rebecca asked quietly. Every damn day, Blade said honestly. But we're crossing them for the right reasons. Women are alive who wouldn't be otherwise. That's worth the risk. Connor added, the system should work. Restraining orders should restrain. Police should protect. Until that happens, the club fills the gap. Simple as that. 2 years after Marcus had crashed Emma's wedding, Rebecca testified at a state legislative hearing about stalking laws and restraining order enforcement. She'd become a recognized advocate, worked with domestic violence organizations, helped draft proposed legislation strengthening protections for stalking victims. Her testimony was powerful because it was personal and backed by data. I had a restraining order against my stalker for 8 months, Rebecca told the legislators. He violated it repeatedly, sent threatening letters, followed me, showed up at my workplace and my family events. I reported every violation to police. Nothing happened. The system told me to wait until he actually did something, meaning wait until he hurt me badly enough to matter. She paused. I survived because I found protection outside the legal system, but I shouldn't have had to. No woman should have to seek alternative protection because restraining orders are just paper and police can't act until violence occurs. The legislators asked questions. What changes would help? What enforcement mechanisms were needed? Rebecca provided detailed recommendations, all based on the cases she'd documented, the women she'd helped, the patterns she'd observed. Real reforms followed. Not enough, not fast enough, but something. Better enforcement mechanisms, consequences for violations, GPS monitoring for repeat offenders, police training on stalking behavior. The system improved, incrementally, imperfectly, but measurably. And through it all, Rebecca continued her other work, connecting desperate women with a motorcycle club that protected them when the system failed. Because systemic reform was important, but individual protection was immediate, and women needed both. One evening, a woman named Julia called Rebecca's number. My ex-husband is violating our custody agreement, using it to stalk me, showing up when he's not supposed to, following me from exchanges, threatening me through our daughter. The family court says it's a civil matter. Police say it's a custody issue. Nobody will help. Rebecca listened, documented, and made a call to Connor. I have a situation. Ex-husband using custody as cover for stalking. Tell me more, Rebecca explained. Connor listened, then said, bring her to church tomorrow night. We'll hear her story. Because some things hadn't changed. The system was better, but it still failed women regularly, and until it stopped failing them, organizations like the Iron Riders would exist in the gaps, operating outside the law to provide protection the law promised but didn't deliver. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't what justice was supposed to look like, but it kept women alive, and that was enough. 5 years after that wedding reception, Rebecca stood in the Iron Riders clubhouse at a party celebrating the club's 40th anniversary. She'd become an unofficial member of the Iron Riders family, not a biker herself, but someone who worked alongside the club, who helped coordinate protection for women, who'd earned the respect of brothers through shared purpose. Emma and Jake were there too, fully integrated into club life, understanding that the Iron Riders' protection had kept Rebecca safe when nothing else would. Connor approached Rebecca with a beer. Big crowd tonight. The club's grown a lot in 5 years. Yeah, word gets around. Club that actually protects people. We've been getting prospects from all over, guys, who want to be part of something that matters. You've built something important, Rebecca said. Not just a motorcycle club, a safety net for people the system abandons. That's what we've always been. Just more people know it now. Connor smiled. Including you. Jake tells me you're running for city council, going to fix the system from inside. Trying to. Someone needs to push for better stalking laws, better enforcement. Make it so women don't need motorcycle clubs to stay safe. You think you can fix it? I think I can make it better. And while I'm working on that, the Iron Riders will keep doing what you do. Damn right we will. Blade appeared, carrying a leather vest. Not a full member's vest, but something else. He handed it to Rebecca. For you, honorary club member. First woman we've ever given this to. The vest had the Iron Riders patches and a rocker that said family. Rebecca felt tears forming. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep fighting to fix the system and keep sending us women who need protection while the system's still broken. I will. Both. Rebecca put on the vest. It felt right, like belonging to something that mattered. Around her, Iron Riders brothers raised their beers in salute to family, to protection, to filling gaps the system left open, to women who survived because someone decided they were worth protecting. And Rebecca thought about Marcus in Arizona, living his life far from anyone he could terrorize. About the 16, no, now dozens, of women who were safe because a motorcycle club had decided that restraining orders should actually mean something. The system was better now. She'd helped make it better, but it still wasn't perfect. And until it was, the Iron Riders would be there, operating in shadows, providing protection that didn't require court orders, making stalkers understand that some women had brothers who didn't wait for violence before responding. It wasn't the story Rebecca told at legislative hearings, but it was the truth she lived, and she could live with it. Because women were alive who wouldn't have been otherwise. Looking back, would you have accepted protection from a motorcycle club? Would you have trusted bikers to keep you safe when the legal system couldn't? Where do you draw the line between legal protection and staying alive? Your participation means a lot to the channel. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us knowing what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.